Kamala Harris rolled out her awful economic policy this week, and a panelist on CNN made people, they made CNN, the anchors, absolutely speechless with just how much she destroyed it. Take a look at that clip.
Catherine, I read your piece and I heard you just mention it. The federal ban on price gouging for groceries. You are skeptical of this. Why?
Well, first of all, nobody can explain what price gouging means. It's like that old line about pornography. I know it when I see it, in the sense that what does it mean to have an excessive price or an excessive profit margin? That seems to be shorthand for a price or a profit margin that bugs me. That seems too high. So, it's very hard to pin down what this would actually mean. If you look at the legislation that, as I mentioned, is already in the Senate, led by Senate Warren and Senator Bob Casey and a slew of others, the particular way that this is written, which is likely to be the template for any proposal that Harris would eventually embrace, is especially bad in that it just bans excessive prices, grossly excessive profit margins, and says that the Federal Trade Commission can use any metric it deems appropriate to decide what that would mean, which basically says, like, it's not going to be markets, it's not going to be supply and demand that's determining how much your grocery store charges you for milk or for eggs. It's going to be some bureaucrat in DC, which seems like totally unworkable, first of all, for the FTC to be deciding like how much Kroger charges for eggs in Michigan. But it also would be very bad for markets. We've seen this kind of thing tried in lots of other countries before: Venezuela, Argentina, the Soviet Union, et cetera. It leads to shortages. It leads to black markets. Plenty of uncertainty. And beyond that, the specific way this bill is written might actually increase prices because of some of the other language in it. Things like requiring public companies to disclose in their quarterly reports, their quarterly earnings reports, how they're setting prices, which is a great way to help them collude, which normally we don't want them to do. So anyway, the devil's in the details, I guess, for that bill, but it's really hard for me to imagine any form of legislation that preserves the spirit of what she's proposing that would not be, at best do nothing, at worst cause a lot of harm.
So expertly done. I mean, you can see it's almost whimsical for this girl just destroying Kamala Harris' economic policy because it's just that ridiculous. Anyone who's paid attention in an Econ 101 class can see that price gouging is not really a thing. I mean, business executives don't just wake up and think, oh yeah, how can I make it more expensive? And even if they did that, price controls have never worked ever. As she said, at the very best, which this was very optimistic, at the very best, they would do nothing, and at the most, at the worst, and probably what would happen, it would be absolutely disastrous. And I have to say that you can see this girl is almost like laughing because it's that ridiculous, and that is the perfect argument against leftist economics. I mean, she's not even she's not heated about it, she's not angry, she's just laughing. She's like, the fact that a actual presidential candidate is saying something so economically illiterate, it's funny. It is, and we should all laugh at it. We should literally just say, you're dumb. And I have to say as well that what she's doing in this is something that I think that Donald Trump and other Republicans have to take to heart. She never calls anyone a socialist. She never calls Kamala Harris a communist, which, by the way, I've done plenty of times, but she's making me kind of rethink my persuasion tactics because all she does is she simply lists the countries that did it. Because anytime you hear, oh yeah, Venezuela did that, or Argentina did it, you hear, ugh, you're like, whoa, no, we don't want to do that. Wait, you said Venezuela did it? No, we don't want that. Even leftists will say that. But of course, moderates and Republicans will say that as well. We don't want that here. We don't want that. Sure, it is a communist policy to put price controls on things, and sure, it gives dictators crazy control. But you don't even need to say that. You can literally just laugh at it, and you can say, that's what they did in Venezuela. Can you believe that Kamala Harris wants to bring that to America? She's an idiot. And that is a really effective, again, it's not to be mean, it's just to mock really bad ideas and show how economically illiterate Kamala Harris is, and frankly, all progressive Democrats are. And the reason why I say that is Sometimes the words communist, socialist, it can be easy to tune those out, especially if you're on, if you're a little bit in the middle or on the left. They're overused, right? And in this case, again, it really is communist. It is totalitarian, as she described, but because it lets bureaucrats just determine the price of eggs, which is crazy. But if you don't use those words and you just kind of calmly explain how crazy it is and then cite examples of where it hasn't worked, it's just impossible to argue with. And what's really crazy about this economic policy is that Kamala Harris this whole time is trying to rebrand herself as a moderate, and she's doing it on the social issues, which have become a little bit more important in normal American public life, in many ways in a good way, because those social problems are really important. And for a long time they weren't really being addressed, and the left was just going willy-nilly with them. But then randomly, Kamala Harris is like incredibly out there on her economics, and so as I've talked about before, like people are not responding well to this, and it's no wonder. It's so bad, and this was it's just a huge gaffe for Kamala Harris because she's been trying to rebrand herself as a moderate, and this was anything but. I wanted to show you guys these two really fascinating polls that just came out, just to kind of show you where people are at with this economic policy. This is a New Virginia poll. I'm putting it up on the screen right now. This New Virginia poll is by Roanoke. I don't even know how to say this, honestly. Roanoke College. You can tell me how to pronounce it in the comments. This is in Virginia, and you're seeing that Trump is down 3. If Trump wins Virginia, this race could be over. So suddenly Virginia might be a swing state. Look over here. You can see these other series of polls. This is the swing states. It's not even including Georgia, by the way, which by a lot of pollsters are saying Georgia is hardly even a swing state right now because Trump has such a good hold on it. You can see North Carolina is up. I don't think North Carolina is a swing state like people are saying it is, but in any case, Trump is up anyway. He's up in Michigan. He's up in Arizona. He's up in Nevada. If these polls hold true, and again, this is a little bit of a change from the last few weeks, if those polls hold true, Donald Trump wins, and he wins pretty handily. And as I've said in the past, like there's been some bad polling for Trump in the recent days, but if this is the best it gets for Kamala Harris, the honeymoon period is over. The DNC may give her a slight bump, as I've talked about in the last couple of weeks. I don't know how true that is because you're seeing massive protests there. They're shoving Joe Biden off till 11 o'clock at night so no one can see him. It doesn't look great, but maybe they'll see a slight bump. But I think what this polling could be is the end of the Kamala honeymoon period, and I think a lot of it is because of the massive mistake she made of the first time she's really starting to talk about policy. It's like communist stuff, economics. Again, she needs a much better lead than this if she wants to win, because theoretically this is the best it's going to get for Kamala Harris because it's her honeymoon stage. Right now, the Economist, predicts that it's a dead heat between Trump and Harris. And just as a reminder, just a little bit of perspective with that, The Economist said in 2020 a 97% chance of Joe Biden winning. And Joe Biden did end up winning, but he won by a factor of like a couple thousand votes in 3 key swing states. So it was incredibly close, and they called it as not close at all. So if they're calling it close right now, chances are Donald Trump is actually in a much better place than we think. Also, a lot of people are not talking about is that Republicans are not polling super well in Senate races. However, as we've seen in the past, if people vote on the top of the ticket for Donald Trump, they may vote Republican down the line. And so not only is it huge that Donald Trump wins, but if he wins, he may pull other Republicans that were otherwise losing ahead and winning in those key swing states in those Senate races. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Please go down below, comment, like, and subscribe, and watch another video.